Welcome to ABC English Story. You are listening to our English podcast. Let's learn English with fun stories and conversations. Stay tuned.
15 amazing African Americans who changed America. Hello, English learners. Today, we're going to talk about some very important people in American history. These people are African Americans who did great things and helped make America what it is today. Let's learn about 15 of these amazing people.
Welcome in. Ready to dive into some incredible stories?
I'm ready.
We're talking about 15 influential African Americans. People who not only overcame challenges, but changed America itself.
And what's fascinating is we're not just talking about success, but the impact of their struggles. These are folks who changed the game, often with the weight of history on their shoulders.
Exactly. And we're going deep, unearthing those aha moments that make you see their brilliance in a whole new light.
It's about those nuances, everyone knows Martin Luther King Jr., but what about the strategy behind his nonviolence?
Right. It's one thing to preach love over hate, but to use nonviolence as a strategy against such ingrained prejudice, that's next level.
Totally. King's opponents were ready for violence. His peaceful protest wasn't just moral, it exposed the brutality of segregation for the world to see.
Totally changed how people saw the movement. And speaking of taking a stand, Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat, iconic. But then a year-long boycott, that commitment, the daily sacrifices, wow.
Shows the power of a community united. Parks was the spark, but the boycott. That unwavering support sent a message.
Real change rarely happens overnight. It takes that sustained pushback.
And the courage. Think about Frederick Douglass. Learning to read and write while enslaved, then using those skills to fight slavery. Audacious.
It makes you think about what it took to resist in those times. Finding your voice, using it for what's right.
And the risks. His writings were dangerous. He knew knowledge was power, especially for the enslaved.
And he didn't just escape, he showed others the way. Like Harriet Tubman, right? The trips she made, risking everything to free others.
The Moses comparison is so true. She wasn't just escaping, she was dismantling a system, one risky trip at a time.
Imagine, navigating by the stars, secret codes, always the threat of capture. Talk about living with purpose.
It makes you think about bravery, right? The sacrifices people made for freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears. People who broke barriers, defied expectations. Like Jackie Robinson, what a story.
His talent is one thing, but the pressure, the racism he faced, and he always carried himself with such dignity.
The weight of an entire race on your shoulders. Every move watched. He rose above it all.
His story's bigger than baseball. It's about human resilience. His success wasn't just about him. It was a victory for everyone. And talking about perseverance, you can't forget Barack Obama becoming the first Black president. It wasn't just winning, it was challenging what leadership could look like in America.
Yeah, his story really shows that strategic dedication, the long game. Not just charisma, but that deep understanding of the Constitution. He wanted to use the law to make progress. That really stood out.
Absolutely. And you see that same dedication in Colin Powell's military career, rising through the ranks, first Black chairman of the Joint Chiefs, then Secretary of State. Amazing.
Rewriting the rules one step at a time. Both Obama and Powell show how important preparation is when you're trying to change things from within.
Totally. But let's not forget those who found success even with discrimination, like Hattie McDaniel, first Black Oscar winner back in 1940. Monumental.
Bittersweet, though. Right. Such talent recognized. But it's 1940. Segregation was still everywhere.
Right. It's a reminder that even big achievements don't erase everything. Progress takes time. It's a constant fight against those ingrained inequalities.
Makes you think about the courage it must have taken to even try, to demand recognition in a system that wanted to shut you out.
Exactly. And that leads us to those who use their voices to challenge the system. To speak for those who couldn't, Muhammad Ali refusing to fight in Vietnam, that went beyond boxing.
Putting everything on the line for his beliefs. World champion risking it all against an unjust war. Took guts.
More than boxing, it was about using his platform, speaking truth to power, even when it was unpopular. He knew silence wasn't an option.
And speaking of powerful voices, Nina Simone. Her music was protest. It made you face racism head on.
That raw emotion, the honesty, Mississippi Goddamn wasn't just a song, it was a battle cry. You could feel the anger and frustration of a generation.
She didn't care about making people uncomfortable. She knew change needed more than listening. It needed action, engagement.
For sure. And that same idea of using art for social commentary, you see it in Maya Angelou's work too. Taking her pain, her childhood, and turning it into powerful writing.
I know why the caged bird sings. Everyone should read it. Heartbreaking, inspiring, and so real. Shows how personal stories, when shared honestly, can really connect with everyone.
Totally. She had this way of talking about resilience, about hope during tough times, makes her work timeless.
Okay, one last shift. Let's talk about those who went beyond expectations, who found greatness where others told them they couldn't, like Michael Jordan.
Everyone knows about him on the court, but his business mind, that adds a whole other layer to his legacy. He was more than just an athlete.
Be Like Mike became about more than basketball. He was a cultural icon, a businessman, someone to look up to.
Absolutely. And speaking of breaking records, Serena Williams, her impact goes way beyond tennis.
She called out sexism and racism in sports, demanded change, all while being the best and raising a family. Inspiring.
Totally. And don't forget her other ventures, fashion, investing, her philanthropy. She's showing what it means to use your success to make a difference.
Proof you don't have to choose. You can be great and do good.
Absolutely. And finally, George Washington Carver. Born into slavery, became a leading scientist. His story is all about perseverance, about using what you have to overcome anything.
Imagine being born into slavery just as it's ending. Then he finds over 300 uses for the peanut. That's turning things around.
He believed in innovation and helping his community. He didn't want to just discover things. He wanted to use his knowledge to help people.
His story shows that brilliance can come from anywhere, and that even when things are tough, you can still innovate, make a better future. Makes you think, you know. All these stories were standing on the shoulders of giants, people who went through so much, but they created hope. They made progress. It makes you think about how far we've come, but also the fight isn't over.
It really does. Imagine trying to achieve something with all that prejudice holding you back. But they did it. They kept fighting for something better. It's inspiring.
Totally. And we just scratched the surface with these 15 stories.
Yeah.
But hopefully it makes you want to learn more, you know, to really dive into their journeys.
That's the thing about history, right? When you see the human side, the personal sacrifices, that's what makes it real.
It reminds you that everyone can make a difference, that we all have that potential to fight injustice, to leave things better than we found them.
It really does. And thinking about everything these people overcame, it makes you wonder, what seems impossible now that they paved the way for? What barriers are broken that let us dream bigger?
Wow, that's a powerful thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into these 15 amazing lives. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.
Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a very brave man. He lived from 1929 to 1968. He was a leader who fought for equal rights for black people in America. King didn't use violence to fight. He used words and peaceful actions instead. King gave many important speeches. His most famous speech was called, "I Have a Dream." In this speech, he talked about his hope for a better future. He wanted a world where black people and white people could live together in peace. King's work helped change many unfair laws. Because of him, black people got more rights. Sadly, some bad people didn't like what King was doing. In 1968, someone killed him, but his ideas and his dream live on. Today, many people around the world remember Martin Luther King Jr. as a hero. Barack Obama made history in 2008. He became the first black president of the United States. Obama was born in 1961 in Hawaii. His father was from Kenya, and his mother was from Kansas. Before he was president, Obama was a lawyer and a teacher. He taught about the U.S. Constitution. Then he became a senator. As a senator, he worked to make laws to help people. When Obama became president, many people were very happy and proud. He was president for 8 years, from 2009 to 2017. During this time, he worked on many important things. He helped make healthcare better for many Americans. He also worked to make the economy stronger. Obama showed that in America, anyone can become president if they work hard. He inspired many young people, especially young black people, to dream big and work for their goals. Hattie McDaniel. Hattie McDaniel was a very talented actress. She was born in 1893 and died in 1952. McDaniel was the first African American to win an Oscar. An Oscar is a very important award for actors and movie makers. McDaniel won her Oscar in 1940 for her role in the movie Gone with the Wind. This was a big deal because at that time, it was very hard for black actors to get good roles in movies. Many places in America were still segregated. This means that black people and white people had to use different areas and services. Even though McDaniel won an Oscar, she still faced a lot of unfair treatment because of her skin color. But she didn't give up. She kept acting and opened doors for other black actors who came after her. Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was a great boxer and an important civil rights activist. He was born in 1942 and his birth name was Cassius Clay. He later changed his name to Muhammad Ali when he became a Muslim. Ali was an amazing boxer. He won many, many fights and became the world heavyweight champion. People called him the greatest because he was so good at boxing. But Ali was more than just a boxer. He spoke out against racism and war. When the U.S. government wanted him to fight in the Vietnam War, Ali said no. This was a brave thing to do. Many people were angry at him, but Ali stood by what he believed in. Ali showed that athletes could use their fame to talk about important issues. He inspired many people, both in and out of the boxing ring. Nina Simone. Nina Simone was a wonderful singer and pianist. She was born in 1933 and died in 2003. Simone's music was special because it mixed different styles like jazz, blues, and classical music. Simone wasn't just a great musician. She was also a strong voice in the civil rights movement. Many of her songs talked about the unfair treatment of black people in America. Her music helped inspire people to fight for equality. One of Simone's most famous songs is called Mississippi Goddamn. She wrote this song after some very bad people hurt black people in the state of Mississippi. The song showed how angry and sad she was about racism. Simone's powerful voice and important messages in her music made her a hero to many people. She showed that music can be a way to fight for what's right. Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is one of the most famous basketball players ever. He was born in 1963 and played basketball for many years. People often call him the greatest basketball player of all time. Jordan played for the Chicago Bulls team. He helped his team win 6 championships. He could jump very high and make amazing shots. Many people wanted to be like Mike because he was so good at basketball. But Jordan did more than just play basketball. He became a successful businessman, too. He started his own shoe company and made lots of money. Jordan showed that athletes can be smart in business, too. Jordan inspired many young people to work hard and follow their dreams. He showed that with practice and determination, you can become great at what you do. Serena Williams. Serena Williams is an amazing tennis player. She was born in 1981 and started playing tennis when she was very young. Serena and her sister Venus both became great tennis players. Serena has won many, many tennis matches and tournaments. She has won more Grand Slam titles than any other tennis player in the modern era. Grand Slam tournaments are the biggest and most important tennis competitions. But Serena is more than just a great athlete. She has spoken out about unfair treatment of women and black people in sports. She has also started businesses and does a lot to help others. Serena has shown that women can be strong, powerful, and successful in sports. She has inspired many girls and women to believe in themselves and work hard for their goals. Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was a very important person in American history. He was born into slavery around 1818. This means that when he was born, he was not free. He was owned by other people, which was a terrible thing that happened to many black people at that time. Douglass learned to read and write, even though it was against the law for enslaved people to do this. He escaped from slavery when he was a young man and became free. Then, he started to speak and write about how bad slavery was. Douglass wrote books and gave many speeches. He told people about the horrible things that happened to enslaved people. He worked hard to end slavery and to get equal rights for black people. Douglass showed that knowledge is very powerful. He used his words to fight for freedom and justice. Many people listened to him and were inspired to help end slavery. Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was a very brave woman. She was born into slavery around 1822. Like Frederick Douglass, she escaped and became free. But Tubman did something amazing after she escaped. She went back to help other enslaved people escape too. Tubman became a conductor on the Underground Railroad. This wasn't a real railroad. It was a secret network of people who helped enslaved people escape to freedom. Tubman made many dangerous trips back to slave states to lead people to freedom. She never lost a single person on these trips. During the Civil War, Tubman worked as a spy for the Union Army. She also helped take care of sick and injured soldiers. After the war, she worked to help women get the right to vote. Tubman showed incredible courage and kindness. She risked her life many times to help others be free. Many people call her the Moses of her people because she led so many to freedom. George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver was a very smart scientist and inventor. He was born into slavery around 1864, just as slavery was ending in America. Carver loved to learn about plants and nature. Carver went to college and studied agriculture, which is the science of farming. He became a teacher and researcher. He taught farmers better ways to grow crops. This helped many poor farmers have better lives. One of the things Carver is famous for is finding many uses for peanuts. He created over 300 products from peanuts. He also found many uses for sweet potatoes and other crops. Carver showed that science can be used to help people in everyday life. He worked hard to share his knowledge with others, especially with poor farmers who needed help. Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks is often called the mother of the civil rights movement. She was born in 1913 and lived until 2005. Parks is famous for something she did on a bus in 1955. At that time, in many parts of America, black people had to sit at the back of buses. If the front part of the bus was full, black people had to give up their seats for white people. One day, Parks was told to give up her seat. She said no. Parks was arrested for not giving up her seat. This made many people very angry. They thought it was unfair. So, they started a bus boycott. This means they stopped riding buses. The boycott lasted for more than a year and helped change the unfair laws. Parks showed that one person can make a big difference by standing up for what's right. Her brave action helped start big changes in America. Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson was a great baseball player who changed the sport forever. He was born in 1919 and died in 1972. In 1947, Robinson became the first African American to play in Major League Baseball in the modern era. Before Robinson, black players were not allowed to play in the major leagues. They had to play in separate leagues. When Robinson joined the Brooklyn Dodgers, many people were angry. Some fans and other players were mean to him. But Robinson was very brave and strong. He didn't fight back when people were mean. He just played great baseball. He was so good that he won many awards and helped his team win the World Series. Robinson opened the door for other black players to join Major League Baseball. He showed that skin color doesn't matter in sports or in life. What matters is how well you play the game. Louis Armstrong. Louis Armstrong was one of the greatest jazz musicians ever. He was born in 1901 and died in 1971. Armstrong played the trumpet and was also a great singer. Many people say he helped create jazz music. Armstrong grew up very poor in New Orleans. He learned to play music when he was young. He became famous for his amazing trumpet playing and his unique singing voice. People all over the world loved his music. Armstrong's most famous songs include What a Wonderful World and Hello, Dolly. He was not only a great musician, but also a kind and happy person. Many people loved him for his big smile and friendly personality. Armstrong showed that music can bring people together. His music was loved by people of all races. He helped make jazz popular around the world. Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou was a wonderful writer and poet. She was born in 1928 and died in 2014. Angelou wrote books, poems, and essays about her life and about being a black woman in America. Angelou had a hard life when she was young, but she overcame many difficulties and became a famous writer. Her most famous book is called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. This book tells the story of her childhood. Angelou's writing is very powerful. She wrote about important things like racism and women's rights. She also wrote about hope and the strength of the human spirit. Many people love her poems like Still I Rise and Phenomenal Woman. Angelou showed that our stories are important. By sharing her own story, she helped many people understand the experiences of Black Americans. She inspired people to be proud of who they are. Colin Powell. Colin Powell was an important leader in the U.S. military and government. He was born in 1937 and died in 2021. Powell was the first African American to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This is the highest position in the U.S. military. Later, Powell became the first African American Secretary of State. The Secretary of State is a very important job in the U.S. government. This person helps the president make decisions about dealing with other countries. Powell grew up in New York City. His parents came from Jamaica. He joined the Army and worked his way up to become a general. He was known for being smart and a good leader. Powell showed that African Americans could reach the highest levels of government and military service. He was respected by people from different political parties. He believed in serving his country and helping others. These 15 amazing African Americans have all helped to make America what it is today. They faced many challenges and worked hard to overcome them. They fought against unfair treatment and showed great courage. Their achievements have opened doors for others and inspired people around the world. Each of these people made a difference in their own way. Some used their words, like Martin Luther King Jr. and Maya Angelou. Others used their talents in sports or music, like Serena Williams and Louis Armstrong. Some, like Barack Obama and Colin Powell, became leaders in government. What all these people have in common is that they didn't give up when things were hard. They believed in themselves and in what was right. They worked to make things better not just for themselves, but for others too. These African American icons remind us that one person can make a big difference. They show us that no matter who we are or where we come from, we can achieve great things. They teach us to be brave, to work hard, and to stand up for what we believe in. As we remember these 15 amazing people, we can think about how we can make a difference too. We can learn from their examples and try to make the world a better place, just like they did. Their stories are an important part of American history and continue to inspire people today.